March 15th, 2024, 11:47 at night. That's when I finally blew out the single candle on my birthday cake, alone. I spent the whole day waiting, checking my phone every few minutes, making sure the ringer was on, even though my hearing isn't what it used to be. I baked my own cake that morning, yellow cake with chocolate frosting, just like I used to make for all 5 of my children when they were small. My arthritic hands shook as I mixed the batter, but I kept going, because somewhere deep down, I thought maybe one of them would show up. Maybe they'd surprise me. The cake sat on my kitchen table all day. One candle. 89 years, and I couldn't bear to put all those candles on there. It would have looked like a fire hazard. I laughed at my own joke, but the sound echoed empty in my little apartment. I remember when Michael turned 7. That was my oldest. I worked double shifts at the Woolworths downtown just to buy him that bicycle he wanted, a red Schwinn with playing cards in the spokes. I can still hear the sound those cards made when he rode up and down our street in Memphis. Click, 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 click. He rode that bike until the wheels fell off. Sarah, my second, she was born when Michael was 3. Premature baby, spent weeks in the hospital. I slept in that uncomfortable chair next to her incubator every night. The nurses said I didn't have to, but I couldn't leave her. She was so small, so fragile. I'd whisper to her through the plastic, "Mama's here, baby girl. Mama's not going anywhere." Then came David, Marcus, and little Evelyn. 5 children in 8 years. My husband Jerome worked construction, and I cleaned houses for the wealthy families on the other side of town. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Sunday dinners around our small table, everyone talking at once, fighting over the last piece of cornbread. The chaos was beautiful. I taught them all to ride bikes on that same street in Memphis. I ran behind each one, holding the back of their seats, promising I wouldn't let go. But eventually, you have to let go. That's what being a parent is. You spend years teaching them to fly. Then you watch them soar away from you. When Jerome died 12 years ago, they all came to the funeral. We stood together at Mount Olive Cemetery, holding hands as they lowered him into the ground. Michael squeezed my hand and whispered, "Don't worry, Mama. We're going to take care of you." But life has a way of making liars out of good intentions. Michael moved to Seattle for work. Software engineering, he calls it. I don't really understand what he does, but he makes good money. He sends me a Christmas card every year with a photo of his family. 2 kids I've met exactly twice. His wife seems nice enough, but she keeps the grandkids busy with soccer and piano lessons and things I can't pronounce. When I call, he's always rushing somewhere. "Mom, I'm just heading into a meeting." Or, "Mom, can I call you back? We're at Emma's recital." Sarah lives 3 hours away in Little Rock. She became a nurse just like she always wanted. I was so proud when she graduated. I still have the photo of her in her white coat on my refrigerator, right next to the grocery list I wrote in handwriting that gets shakier every month. She works nights at the hospital, sleeps during the day. When I call, I wake her up, and I can hear the exhaustion in her voice. "Mom, you know I work nights. Can we talk later?" Later never comes. David joined the army and never really came back, not in the way that matters. He did 3 tours in Afghanistan, came home different, quieter, angrier. He lives in a VA facility now, gets the help he needs for whatever he saw over there. I visit when I can, but it's hard to see your baby boy stare through you like you're a stranger. The doctors say he's getting better, but better is relative when you're starting from broken. Marcus, my 4th, he lives the closest, just 2 towns over in West Memphis. He drives trucks for a living, just like his daddy wanted to before his back gave out. He's got his own family now, twin boys who are 8 years old. I've offered to babysit, but his wife doesn't trust me with them, says I might fall or forget something important. Maybe she's right. Sometimes I do forget things, but I remember every birthday, every Christmas, every first day of school from when my kids were young. And Evelyn, my baby girl. She's 47 now, living in Nashville, chasing dreams of being a singer. She works at a diner to pay the bills and performs at honky-tonk bars on weekends. I've always supported her dreams, even when Jerome thought she should settle down and get a real job. She calls me more than the others, but even those calls have gotten shorter, more rushed. The truth is, I raised 5 children, and somewhere along the way, I became a burden instead of a mother. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're still here, maybe you understand what it feels like to become invisible in your own family. I spent yesterday cleaning my apartment from top to bottom, just in case one of them showed up. I put fresh sheets on the guest bed that hasn't been slept in for 3 years. I stocked the refrigerator with foods I remembered each of them liking. Grape soda for Marcus, those little chocolate cookies Sarah used to sneak from the pantry. Even though I know David can't eat sugar anymore because of his medication. The morning of my birthday, I woke up at 5 a.m. Old habits die hard. I used to get up that early to make breakfast for everyone before school and work. Now I wake up early to silence. I made my coffee in the same ceramic mug I've used for 20 years. Jerome bought it for me at a gas station in Tupelo. It says "World's Greatest Mom" in faded blue letters. The handle is chipped, but I can't bring myself to throw it away. I sat at my kitchen table and watched the sun come up through my window. The view isn't much, just the parking lot of my apartment complex and the Walmart across the street. But I've watched thousands of sunrises from this spot, and each one reminds me that I'm still here. By 9 a.m., I expected the first call. Birthdays were sacred in our house when the kids were growing up. We always called first thing in the morning, sang the song, made a big deal about it. I taught them that birthdays matter because people matter. By noon, I started making excuses for them, time zones, work schedules, traffic, life. By 3 p.m., I was checking my phone to make sure it wasn't broken. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, just to make sure the line was working. She's 83 and lonelier than I am, if that's possible. We talked for an hour about nothing important, but it felt good to hear another human voice. At 6 p.m., I lit the candle on my cake and made a wish. I can't tell you what I wished for, or it won't come true, but I think you can guess. I waited until 11:47 p.m. before I finally blew out that candle. The sun had set and risen on my 89th year, and not one of my children had called. The worst part isn't the silence. It's the guilt that comes with feeling abandoned by people you love more than your own life. Because part of me wonders if I failed them somehow, if I wasn't a good enough mother, if I deserved this. I think about the sacrifices I made, the jobs I worked to put food on the table, the nights I stayed up with fevers and nightmares, the school plays where I was the loudest one clapping, the baseball games where I cheered until my voice was gone, the prom dresses I sewed by hand because we couldn't afford store-bought ones, the college tuition I helped pay by working extra shifts until my feet bled in my shoes. I think about the times I went without so they could have more. The Christmas morning when I told them Santa must have forgotten about Mama, but he sure remembered them. The dinner plates where I took smaller portions so they could have seconds. The winter coat I wore for 5 years so Michael could have a new one for his senior pictures. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I love them too much. Maybe I made their lives so comfortable that they forgot where they came from. Or maybe this is just what happens. Maybe children are supposed to outgrow their parents, like shoes that no longer fit. Maybe I'm holding on to something that was never meant to last forever. But I remember holding each of them when they were born. That moment when the doctor placed them in my arms, and suddenly nothing else in the world mattered. Not the pain, not the exhaustion, not the fear of not knowing how to be someone's mother. In that moment, I was complete. I remember teaching Evelyn to braid her hair, sitting behind her on my bed while she squirmed and complained, "Mama, you're pulling too tight." But she always came back the next morning for me to fix it again. I remember Marcus at 5 years old, following me around the house like a shadow. "Mama, what you doing? Mama, can I help? Mama, why is the sky blue?" 1,000 questions a day, and I answered every single one. I remember David bringing me dandelions from the yard, his chubby hands clutching those weeds like they were roses. "These are for you, Mama." And I put them in a mason jar on the windowsill like they were the most beautiful flowers in the world. I remember Sarah practicing her nursing skills on her dolls, wrapping their arms with toilet paper and taking their temperature with a toy thermometer. Even then, she had that gentle touch, that caring heart. And Michael, always the protector, always trying to be the man of the house, even when Jerome was there. "Mama, I'm going to take care of you when I grow up." He meant it when he said it. They all meant it. Somewhere between meaning it and growing up, life got in the way. I'm not angry with them. How can I be angry with pieces of my own heart walking around outside my body? But I'm disappointed, not in them, but in how love can fade when you're not looking, how busy can become an excuse for forgetting, how distance can grow between people who once shared the same heartbeat. I have friends at the senior center who complain about their children constantly. Dorothy's son calls her twice a day, and she thinks he's checking up on her too much. Margaret's daughter lives with her, and she wishes she had more privacy. Mrs. Thompson gets visits from her grandchildren every weekend, and she grumbles about the noise they make. I listen to their complaints and feel a hollow ache in my chest. I would give anything for too many phone calls, for a daughter who cares enough to check on me, for grandchildren making noise in my quiet apartment. There are more stories I need to get off my chest. If you want to hear them, hit subscribe. I'll be here. I've been thinking about what I want my legacy to be. Not the money I leave behind, because there isn't much. Not the house, because I live in a rented apartment now. But the memories I gave them, the foundation I built underneath their lives. I want them to remember that they were loved completely, unconditionally, fiercely, even if they've forgotten how to show that love back. I want them to remember the smell of Sunday morning pancakes and the sound of gospel music playing on the radio. I want them to remember the feeling of being safe in their mother's arms, even when the world outside was scary and uncertain. I want them to remember that family isn't just about biology. It's about showing up. It's about being present in the small moments and the big ones. It's about making time for the people who made you who you are. Maybe one day they'll realize what they've lost. Maybe they'll pick up the phone and hear the silence on the other end because I'm no longer here to answer. Maybe they'll wish they had one more conversation, one more chance to say the things that mattered. Or maybe they won't. Maybe I'm just an old woman holding on to expectations that died with a different generation. But I'm still here, 89 years old, sitting at my kitchen table with my world's greatest mom mug and memories that feel more real than the present. I'm still here, and tomorrow I'll wake up and make my coffee and watch the sun rise over that Walmart parking lot. And if the phone rings, I'll answer it like it's the most important call in the world, because to me, it would be. The candle is out now, but the wish is still burning. Maybe that's enough. Maybe hope is the only birthday gift you can give yourself when you reach my age. I have 5 children. That's a fact that will never change, no matter how quiet my phone stays. I carried them, I raised them, I loved them into the people they became. That love doesn't disappear just because it's not returned in the way I expected. Tonight, I'm going to wrap up that untouched cake and put it in the freezer. Maybe I'll eat a piece tomorrow with my morning coffee. Maybe I'll save it for a day when one of them calls, so I can tell them about the birthday cake that waited for them. Or maybe I'll just throw it away and start over, because that's what mothers do. We start over every single day, loving people who may never love us back the same way. But we love them anyway, because that's what love is. It's not a transaction. It's a gift you give without expecting anything in return. And even at 89, even with arthritis in my hands and loneliness in my heart, I'm still giving that gift, still waiting by the phone, still believing that love matters, even when it feels forgotten. March 15th, 2024, 11:47 at night. That's when I blew out my birthday candle and made peace with being alone. But I'm not really alone. I have 5 children living their lives somewhere out there in the world. They're busy and complicated and flawed and human, and they're mine. They'll always be mine, even if they never call again.